He's back. Our speaker, Senior Minister, Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Baltimore. Woo! Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson has frequently been referred to as a Renaissance man. One look at his resume and the reason becomes clear. As a lifelong learner with a passion for self-development, personal transformation, transmutation, and self-awakening, he lives his bliss as a teacher, mentor, speaker, minister, and so much more. His mission is to live, move, and be an active, which is an acronym, authentic, compassionate, transparent, inspired, vibrant, and empowered member of society who serves to educate, emancipate, awaken, and empower people and communities. Rev, come on and do it. As you do it,
Gracias.
De nada.
So good morning, everyone. So prayerfully we're all ready. Notebooks in hand, because today might be one of those kind of days. Let us go. So today we're talking about one mind, yet infinite connections. We often say one mountain with many paths, one tree with many branches, one river, many wells, as part of our honoring of the world's religions. But what if we turn that phrase around and apply it to how we are encouraged to move from thinking the divine to feeling it? Pause. Because oftentimes we think about God and we think about abundance and all the good stuff that Sue was talking about, and we think about being one with spirit, as the Let Us sang. We think about it, but we're now being encouraged to feel it, experiencing it by way of the mystical experiences that transcend any one path, religion, or tradition. In other words, we have infinite ways to connect to this thing called the one life, the one mind, God. Infinite ways of connecting. Okay, Ernest Holmes said, we are to view ourselves each in the other and behold God in all. When we realize love as the greatest harmony, then we shall sing the praise of God. Now, I want you to take that in, because if we're recognizing that God is all there is, then God is exactly who and what you are. So then we shall sing the praise of that which I am, ever becoming more and more, ever evolving into. Not praising God as some separate thing, but praising it as the very life force, the very love, the very beingness that each of us individually is and collectively are. Some guy, Raymont Anderson, said, if God is all there is, then anything we do with the awareness that what it is, we are, we become, then becomes a spiritual practice, a way of connecting to the truth of our being. So if God is all there is, then anything that we do, if it's done with that awareness that what God is what we are, then that thing that we're doing becomes a spiritual practice. It becomes a way that we connect to the truth of our being. Okay? Which means we can connect to the infinite through washing dishes, sweeping the floor, shoveling snow, just as readily as we do through meditation. Every way opens as the way to connect to spirit as you. Breathe and take that in. Because keep in mind, we oftentimes separate spiritual practices as if it's meditation. And meditation is great. I'm not saying don't do. I'm saying that when we shift our awareness, then everything opens up as mindfulness, as meditation, as a way of stepping into a mystical experience. Everything, because everything is God. So we say, one river, many wells. What does that mean, Reverend Ray? What it means is that it really doesn't matter where the well is showing up, right? The well can be wherever it is. There are many wells, many individualized expressions of God, many individualized incarnations of the one. So it doesn't matter how many wells. All of these wells, however, must be connecting to one river. So you are such a well, connecting to the one river that is God, and everyone else is also, all are incarnations of God. It is in, with, through, and as all of us. So the truth of what it is the one river that connects everything. That there is no man, woman, child, person, non-gender conforming being. There is no one that is separate from this infinite single river, single power. That which we're connected to can never run dry. So in the world of effects, there's a well that you go to get water from, and it's like, oh, this well has run dry, so people will go dig a new well to search for more water. But keep in mind, Yeshua told the woman at the well, but I'm going to give you water from a source that can never be depleted. I'm going to give you water from this source that you will never thirst again. Why? Because we are connected to this infinite all that is. The love that Sue spoke about, the infinite abundance, is the very power of this single river, this single source, life itself. And what it is, not just are you connected to it, you are it. Science of Mind says, in moments of deepest realization, the great mystics have sensed that one life flows through all, and that all are some part of that life. Now, I've known some people who read this and thought that all are some part of that life, and they made it about quantity. But keep in mind that the fullness of God is present right where you are right now. Meaning, Tracy cannot be more God than me, or vice versa. The fullness of God is present right where she is. The fullness of God is present right where I am. The fullness of God is present right where Deletta is. The fullness of God is present right where Faith is. The fullness of God is present where all of us are, because it's all there is. When we shift our awareness and recognize that, then we feel the influx, the divine influx of this power and this healing and this joy and this magnificence. That's what it means to be one with spirit, as the letter sang. Because, see, there are times when we're growing up and we're trying to fit in with the cool kids or the whoever kids, and we sacrifice ourselves and our interests to be like them because we want to fit in. But the moment we come back to and are at one with ourselves, I am one with myself, then we recognize, now I'm really alive. I'm living authentically. And in the same way, when we are one with spirit, when we are at one with the truth of our being, we are able to live an authentic and empowered life. Science of Mind also says, within this infinite mind, each individual exists. We are not separated from life, neither is it separated from us. But we are separate entities in it, individualized centers of God consciousness. And what this means is, because I've heard people read this and reference separation. What it's saying is Tracy and I we're not Siamese twins. We are not connected in that we are the same person. We're not the same individualized expression. We are two separate expressions of the one. But the absolute, she and I are one, as are each person watching right now, or each one watching on Facebook, or each one watching the video later on YouTube. There's only one, and each of us is in it, showing up as it, even when we see each other in the dualistic expression of Tracy is a person, Fifi is a person, I am a person, and we are separate persons having separate individualized lives, and yet we are still one power and one presence, life itself, God. So, on a busy street one day, you're walking down the road and you happen to see a young lady. And she says, "What do you see?" So when you look, what do you see? Do you see muscles and arteries and veins? Do you see a circulatory system? Do you see organs, individual intestines and liver? Do you see individual stem cells and bone cells? Do you see these things that are part of who she is, but do you see them? Do you recognize them as separate parts of the whole? Do you see the bone marrow? Do you see the liver? Do you see these individual pieces? Or maybe you might see the actual elemental composition. You're able to see the nitrogen and the magnesium and the sulfur and sodium and oxygen and carbon. Maybe you can see all of that. Maybe you're able to look at her and you see the very DNA that makes up her physiological self. Well, maybe, just maybe, if you're anything like the Sorcerer Supreme or the Ancient One, maybe when you look at her, you are able to see the quantum field. You're able to see the particles and waves in the quantum field that make up her beingness. Or maybe when you see her, you see the totality of the individual, knowing that she is made up of each of these individual systems that come together to create this one beautiful expression called human being. And ultimately, what we are being invited to do is see her and see God. And as we look at her and see God, the more we are able to recognize the divine essence of ourselves, the more we are able to recognize and see the God of her being, the God that she is. And when we are able to recognize and see that, then we are able to see the luminosity of her being ever brighter and ever brighter and ever more present. But ultimately, what we recognize is that not just her, it has to be present as everybody on the street. And not even that, because if God is all there is, then it has to be present as everything and everyone, everywhere. God is all there is. And so we're encouraged to do the work of connecting, recognizing, and anchoring so that we are able to see both oneness and the duality of an individualized expression of the divine showing itself, expressing itself, living itself, and breathing itself. Reverend Dr. Jim Lockhart says, "I see the beloved community as people on a spiritual path who seek a closer relationship with God, who will take their spiritual awareness into the world to be examples of love and compassion in action." So the beloved community, CSL Greater Baltimore, all the other CSLs in the world, all of the unity churches, ultimately it is the beloved community, the people who are gathered together in the name of being examples of love and examples of compassion, examples of nurturing and support in action. So we talk about the vision of CSL as a world that works for all. But that's really, really big to think about. It's a world that works for all. Like, is that just talk? Is it something we say very nicely and kindly to, convince ourselves we're doing good in the world? But it's a phrase. Or are we ready to recognize that your presence makes a difference? So then the question becomes, how does your presence affect your home, your neighborhood, your center, your city, and your state? How does the way you show up make a difference? Because it does, whether you believe it or not. You being here, you're God. There's no reason that God would have incarnated or individualized itself as you, if not to be a beneficial presence in creation. So you're here to do a mighty work. Question is that work life affirming or life denying? It could be either. In this moment, we get to choose. We get to choose how we show up. Because CSL Greater Baltimore is right now in the process of working to build and grow, not just in size, but in the manner in which we are affecting change in the Greater Baltimore area, in the Maryland area, on the East Coast, etc. Because what we're aiming to do is recognize that there are CSLs, there are divine centers of beingness, beloved communities all over the world. And when we connect in consciousness and in cooperation and communication and collaboration, then we are acting of one accord and making a change to demonstrate a world that works for all. Raymont Anderson once again says, I'm gonna have to look this guy up because I don't know find out who he is.
I don't know.
Once again, he says, just as we build strength and connection to our body or a particular skill by using and exercising our body and that skill, we build our awareness of being incarnations of God by using this awareness. In other words, the more we act as spirit, the more we live, move, and have our beingness in the space of the divine as the divine. That's what we're encouraged to do. Same way we build muscles, same way we build stamina, we build our awareness that what we are is God by doing. Faith is a verb, love is a verb, compassion is a verb, God, spirit, life is a verb. It is how we show up and act and move and have our beingness in the very atmosphere of the divine as the divine. The Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Baltimore, vision. We are demonstrating a world that works for all. One life-affirming thought, word, feeling, deed, and one human interaction at a time. Raymont Anderson says, when we arrive at the place where we understand that faith, love, peace, spirit, God is a verb, then we will move mountains, heal nations, and live in harmony with all in a world that works for all. When we arrive at this place that we understand that what we do and how we show up is what's making the difference, that's when the difference will be made. No longer thinking God, but living God. No longer simply contemplating and meditating about God, but showing up as the very power and presence of life and love and joy itself. Being connected to the truth of our being. This week's, I can already say homework, but we're not.
It's not homework.
It's not homework. We're not using that. That's apparently a bad word now, so we're not using that word anymore. This week's opportunity to practice. First, look at yourself in the mirror and contemplate all of the things that make up this unique and special incarnation of spirit. What I mean by that is, Think of all the physical parts. Think of the limbs that make you you, the organs that make you you, the cells and the atoms. Think of all of the parts that come together to show up as you. The hair, the eye color. Think of all of the physical things. Tracy's reaching for hair. Neither one of us got right now. But think of all of the physical things that make you who you are. Then think of all of the beliefs, the thoughts, the feelings, the memories, the things you like and the things you don't like, your hobbies. Think of all of the non-tangibles that also go into making you who you are. That if you had different memories, you'd be someone different. If you had different hobbies, you'd be someone different. For example, I don't know if she's on the call right now, but Robin, our beloved Robin Fernholt. Robin loves to be in the garden. She loves the activity of being in the soil and nurturing plants and life. That's an interest. I'm not even gonna call it a hobby. Robin, that's a way of life. But if that was different, like if she didn't enjoy doing that, she wouldn't be who Robin is. That's one of the things that makes her who she is. Tracy loves cameras and photographing and video, and you should see this whole production setup. It's like being in a TV studio. If that was no longer one of Tracy's interests, Tracy would be a different person. If I didn't like superheroes, God forbid, but if I didn't like superheroes, I'd be a different person.
Totally.
So think about, Tracy said totally. So think about all of the things that make you you. Then make a list of some God qualities like love, truth, creativity, etc. And identify 1 to 3 of them that you can readily embody this week as actions. Things you can do to demonstrate these qualities. What can you do to demonstrate the quality of creativity, creation? What can you do to demonstrate the quality of love or truth or inspiration? What action can you take to demonstrate that? And lastly, Tracy's favorite part.
Yes. Come on.
Have a conversation with 2 people
Ugh.
about any of today's themes and discuss something that was a challenge to embrace and something that opened a new level of awareness for you. Got that? Good.
Good.
Good. Today's affirmation declaration, I'll read it first and then together. I am in the circle of love, which includes and connects all, together in everlasting unity. Together.
I am in the circle of love, which includes and connects all, together in everlasting unity.
I got ready. I'm not going to do it.
Go ahead.
I got ready to, because I can't get the tune. I got ready to, in the circle, the circle of love. Yeah, I got ready to go Lion King on you. But in this moment, let's simply anchor into the awareness that which God is, we are, right here and right now. That there is no someday I'll be God. Someday I'll be healthy. Someday I'll be wealthy and prosperous. Someday I will have the relationships I desire. Someday is today. Today's someday because it's Sunday. This moment right here and right now, declaring these words of truth, knowing that each person who is here by divine appointment, having chosen, using their conscious mind to log in and join in and stay connected, that each person consciously is choosing to be aware and greater and more aware of the truth of their being. So I know that this moment is good. I know that God is present. I know that the life, the love, and the joy of the infinite universe is present right here and right now as this beloved community. Knowing this, I surrendered into the law that always says yes. That means this benediction, this prayer is already answered. We are love, joy, light, music, magic, and majesty made flesh. It is so, and so it is.